Good evening and welcome to the Centennial Community Association General Meeting held on Tuesday, March 16th, 2021. Sorry for the delay here. I just want to go over a few ground rules before we begin the meeting. Excuse me, we're having a little minor problem here. All questions tonight, please direct them to the chat box below. We have the agenda, which was sent out earlier today, which I will hopefully have on the screen here in a minute. And in case you missed this meeting, this is going to be recorded and is going to be posted on our YouTube account. So first want to just welcome everyone. This is one of our most popular meetings since we've gone virtual, and I think that is a testament to how important the issues of community safety and gun violence are right now in our community. I know that personally on my street, we have lots of neighbors with concerns. And so we wanted to have this meeting be an opportunity for our community members to come forward and to connect them with local government officials and elected officials so that we can talk and hear each other and also understand what's being done to help the situation. So to begin, I'm going to hand it off to Scott Spicer, who is is a board member with the Centennial Community Association. Scott?
Thanks, Dan, and welcome everybody. My name's Scott Spicer, and I'm a Centennial Community Association board member. I want to thank you all for joining us this evening. I'll be moderating tonight, and I'd like to share some words before introducing our speakers and invited guests. I've been a resident of East Portland for over 6 years, and during this time, I've had the honor to engage with neighbors and local officials to address community safety issues while enduring the hardship of being victim to incidents myself. When I saw things happening in my neighborhood that were of concern, I felt lucky to have the tools and confidence to speak up and take action. This led to organizing a neighborhood watch in 2016 and bringing Centennial neighbors together to talk openly amongst ourselves and with community leaders after personally being affected by a bias crime, vicious dog attack, and auto theft, all near my home. In 2019, Centennial Community Association went through a leadership change, and we hosted a forum at Rosewood Initiative on community safety. Much of the conversation was focused on law enforcement and police response to community safety issues. A lot has changed on the local and national level since then. More recently, there is a growing concern across East Portland regarding community safety and gun violence. That's what brings us here tonight. And tonight we're here to talk about solutions and action items on a community level. We understand that there are differing views and that these issues are very personal for many of us, including myself. We also recognize that safety looks different for others, especially for those who may be afraid to call 911 and those who do not feel safe when they see a police vehicle on their street. I can tell you what I've seen from my own perspective living in this neighborhood, starting a family, and being a part of a multiracial and religious minority household. First, I will acknowledge that presenting as a white male has an impact on my experience versus others who may feel they're in the shadows or fearful of speaking up simply based upon appearance. I will also say that having a professional background with the experience in navigating systems and understanding the complexities of our local systems makes it less challenging to approach the issues head on that I've chosen to in advocating for myself and my neighbors. If my experience has been challenging, exhausting, and time-consuming amidst all these factors, I cannot imagine what others go through, and this must change. The challenges we face in this community and the Centennial neighborhood specifically are across many layers as it relates to economic changes, urban growth, diversity, equity, and inclusion. For tonight, they link back to crime and violence. We have shifted the way we talk about these issues, and some may say that efforts to redirect resources for law enforcement to other social safety nets in our community is harmful. I disagree, but I do support that in order to effectively accomplish a balance of power and increase the level of safety and inclusivity amongst all people in our neighborhoods, we must work together. I personally have benefited from working collaboratively with law enforcement to aid in tackling serious crime and safety concerns in my direct neighborhood. I know this has not always been the experience of others, and I think we need to continue to work on ways to open up dialogue and break down barriers that are often associated with historic and rooted systems of oppression and re-traumatization. From a policy perspective, I believe it is important to look at root causes, assess the source of the problem, and identify existing policy on enforcement and accountability, as well as explore new and innovative policy approaches to increase safety, reduce crime, and prevent tragedies related to gun violence and other incidents. Oregon is on the forefront at the state level in passing laws and policies that promote gun safety and reduce gun violence. Portland and Multnomah County have worked diligently to make changes and address historical challenges as it relates to enforcement practices and capacity to reach citizens at all levels of safety matters. Coordination between agencies and prioritizing these most pressing safety matters in tangent with neighborhood level concerns is a constant issue. The evolution, growth, and development of the Office of Community and Civic Life as it relates to community safety and neighborhood level engagement is instrumental to ensuring all neighbors feel they can speak up, take action, and be included in civic engagement. One challenge I see with safety in residential areas in East Portland stems from the division in Powell Boulevard thoroughfares. There are systemic issues with drug trafficking, and in my own experience, this created problems with dog attacks, elder abuse, minor crimes, and limitations among police and animal control authorities to adequately respond. On the issue of gun violence, just as car crash incidents and deaths, along with roadway safety, are a priority at all levels of government, access to guns and gun-related deaths and injuries must be seen and spoken about as a public health crisis. Health education initiatives, city and county level policy accountability, and changes or amendments, along with vocal statements and actions from our community leaders, must filter down to the local level when it comes to gun violence as a public health crisis. I'm looking forward to hearing from our neighbors, invited guests, elected and government agency representatives as to what we can do specifically in this neighborhood after tonight and in the coming days to continue to foster safety, inclusivity, and take an upstream approach to preventing and reducing gun violence in our community. So I want to continue with our invited speakers and guests for tonight. And Dan, if it's okay with you, I'll just go ahead with introducing folks. So next up for our speakers representing community members within Centennial and East Portland, we have Lavanita Moala, who's a Centennial resident and business owner.
Sorry. Hello, my name is Lavanita Moala, and I'm a member of the Centennial community since 2006. I want to start out by thanking those of you who are able to be here today, to come here and listen to our voices to be heard, and to be able to work together as a community to help each other feel safe, and to just bond together and work together, support each other as a community. Like I said, I've been here for many years, but in the last recent, probably 8 years, it has been a drastic decline in response to the violence and safety here in our community. As we got closer to this day, I started to get scared. I started to fear as a business owner, as a mother who has family, as I didn't know if me speaking out is gonna make it and affect me as a person, my family, but I feel that this is the only way that we can come out and share what we see and hopefully be heard from our local and national leaders. Um, my family has been directly affected through many auto thefts, as well as the gun violence around us. Every day we wake up having to think of when is it going to be my own kids? When do I have to move out of the city? Because reality is that it's spreading closer and closer to me. My heart goes out to all the family that's already dealing with this. As you guys all know, Southeast area, it's really bad out here. And my heart goes out to all those families. I just want to be here to see what things can be implemented, what plans of action can be done for us, what is already being here to help out with all these. We just feel as a community that we're not taken seriously, that it's just a slap on the wrist and here you go, you just have to deal with it. But as community members, we want to come out and stand together and be able to hear what can we do to also help everyone out. I've never been for guns and all that, but whoever knew that I'd ever get to a point in my life where I would have to go to feel safe, So that was one thing I was always against, but to say that I have to do this to feel safe, that's really sad. And I don't want to have to move out of this area. I love Centennial and I'm grateful for all the friendship and contacts that I have, but we just want to work together and see what supports can we get. Pretty much, yeah, thank you so much. And we're willing to work together, just help each other and help us. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. We're so sorry to hear that this is happening, but this is the conversations we need to have. So thank you again. I think our last community speaker for this portion of the program is Colette DeWitt, who's actually a resident of our next door neighbors, Powellhurst Gilbert. But she is going to share with us her experiences of being a resident out here and also a gun violence prevention leader. So Colette, I will unmute you here.
Oh, hi, thank you. Yes, my name is Colette DeWitt, and first of all, I'd like to, well, first, can you hear me okay? Yeah, okay, great. Community Association for inviting me to speak this evening about Moms Demand Action and the gun violence prevention work we do. I am a resident of the Powellhurst Gilbert neighborhood, and I am continually shocked by the number of gun violence incidents in my neighborhood, and it feels increasingly unsafe. I joined Moms Demand Action in 2018 because of the shocking number of mass shootings in our country, and when I realized how many people I know who have died by gun suicide and unintentional shootings. And I continue to dedicate my time and energy to this compelling work. I've learned that our country's gun violence crisis is very complex and that gun violence affects us all in different ways. As an organization, Moms Demand Action has helped me learn more about the root causes of gun violence in all its forms and has given me ways to take concrete actions to make a difference. So just so you know who Moms Demand Action is, I'd like to tell you that it's a movement of parents, students, families, gun owners, survivors, mayors, anyone who's concerned about gun violence in their communities, who knows that we can do more to save lives. We work to understand the forms gun violence takes, how it impacts our communities, and to prevent gun violence by changing laws at the federal, state, and local level, educating people about secure gun storage and the tools available to them to protect those in their communities, changing culture, and supporting other organizations who are implementing community-based solutions. We are Mothers and Others. We are nonpartisan, and we are gun owners and non-gun owners alike. You can text READY to 64433 to be notified of our Moms Demand Action events. We have a meeting on Thursday. Then let me just go on to say that we partnered with Everytown for Gun Safety in 2014, and we work closely with some other gun violence organizations. One is the Everytown Survivor Network, and it's a nationwide community of gun violence survivors who amplify the power of diverse survivor experiences to put a human face on our nation's gun violence crisis. That someone on this call is a survivor of gun violence or knows someone who is a survivor of gun violence, and is very helpful to get support from other survivors and to learn how you can make your voice make a difference in changing. So you can text survivor to 64433 to be connected with the Survivor Network. Anyone who has personally experienced gun violence, whether you have witnessed an act of gun violence, been threatened or wounded by a gun, or had someone you know or loved one killed by a gun, should feel empowered to claim the term survivor if it resonates with them. Firearms are the second leading cause of death for young people in our country. So another arm of Everytown for Gun Safety is Students Demand Action. It's a rather new part of our organization, formed after the school shooting in Parkland, that galvanized many young people to action. So maybe you can text students. I don't know. I have an assistant, Debbie Lindgren, on the call, and she can put what you can text to join Students Demand Action, or just put 64433 and we can connect you. Another thing that we're doing, we have 3 campaigns. One is a city gun violence campaign. So we're working closely with the Office of Violence Prevention in the city of Portland to help them with their city gun violence problem, primarily in the Black and Brown community, and their hospital-based intervention program, where they meet with perpetrators and victims to help them change their lives and take another direction. We also have the Be Smart program, which I can't really tell you about now. It's not enough time, but it is a program for parents to learn to store their guns safely. I would say if you could do one thing right now, if you have a weapon, store it safely. Make sure it's locked up. Anytime there's a gun in your house, you're putting your family at more risk, even though you think you may not be doing, you might be helping. If you store it safely, securely locked up with ammunition stored separately, you reduce that risk by 85%. So we're trying to get this message into school districts, food banks, police departments, wherever we can. We also educate people about the Extreme Risk Protection Order, Oregon's red flag law, to help people remove a gun if someone is from someone who's in danger of hurting themselves or others. There's a big program. I want to talk more, but if you want to join our work, 64433, you can text READY, or Survivor if you want to join the Survivor Network. Thank you so much.
Colette, thank you for coming and presenting about what you all are doing. And I'm curious to know how, and maybe we'll find out during a breakout group, which I know you're monitoring one of the rooms, how the work that, very important work that you all are doing can help us impact safety in our community. So we have next on our schedule, our agenda is we do have some local government officials and government agency staff. We have 3 people that we've invited to present tonight. And then after that, we're going to take some questions before we, from all the public on this call, before we break out into some breakout groups. So first, I'm going to invite Diane Riley, who is with the East Portland Community Office, which is part of the Office of Civic and Community of Life with the City of Portland.
Hi,
Diane,
everybody.
welcome.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks so much. It's great to be with you. I'm gonna share my screen, and hopefully you all can see this. I'm gonna be as quick as I can, but I do want to give folks a chance to learn about our office and learn about what we do. So my name's Diane Riley. I'm a supervisor for the 2 district coalition offices that are currently run by the city in East and North. And specifically, I supervise 2 teams in East and North. So I'm hoping everybody can see that. Can everybody see that image there? Okay, great. Let's see here. Let me pull up my remarks. Hopefully I can get to those. Let's see here. So I want to thank the organizers, first of all, for pulling this together. It's a very impressive group of people that you're bringing together to present tonight. It's well organized and really a model for how we, would like to see various voices lifted up. People with varying experiences, sharing those experiences and giving us some insight into how we can problem solve. The Office of Community and Civic Life is all about bringing people together in community and with their neighborhoods to address issues of concern, as well as just have a good connection and feel secure. So, what does civic life have to do with community safety? We actually have a lot to do with community safety. We have a team that is specifically focused on community safety, and we that team works throughout Portland in a variety of neighborhoods, with neighborhoods and communities, on solving problems related to community safety and supporting folks in however they see or think of safety for their communities. That includes addressing theft, car theft, as was mentioned. It includes planning for a natural disaster. It includes things like, if you're isolated during the pandemic, how do you feel connected? Our community safety team has worked on hate crimes, vandalism, addressing all kinds of concerns. And they've done that, they've addressed all of these issues over the past year, as just an example. We also at Civic Life work on building community in good times, and with the emphasis or desire to build strong connections so that we are more resilient and capable of coming back from a hard time, as well as less likely to be impacted by a hard time. So I'm going to share a really good example, I think, of how we support communities through the work that we do. This is constructing civic dialogues. We have a grants program, competitive grants program that provides support to neighborhoods, communities, individuals who are interested in training and getting more information about how they can feel safe, as well as address other concerns, maybe build their skills. The Constructing Civic Dialogues program, these are 3 offerings that are coming up in the immediate future. You can RSVP at the link there. For those that are on the phone or may not be able to see the screen, it's www.portland.gov/civic/CCD. That's the letters for Constructing Civic Dialogues. You'll go to the right-hand column of that web page and you'll find the schedule and links to RSVP. So these are great trainings that are offered for free to anybody who wants to participate. And it's a great example of how partnering with the Office of Community and Civic Life, you're able to, get resources. And this program was designed with Portlanders in mind, and specifically with neighborhood associations who were looking for additional trainings. So I encourage folks to participate and to check out these opportunities to get informed, to help you feel more safe and to connect with other people. I think I'm going to just keep my remarks brief and with this. And I look forward to any questions that folks have. Thanks so much again to the organizers for helping to bring people together.
Diane, thank you so much for joining us and presenting about what you all are doing over at the Office of Civic and Community Life. I just received a message from Representative Bynum that she had room in her schedule from 5:45 to 6 p.m. So she's left the meeting, but hopefully we'll come back to another meeting sometime soon. And so with that, I would like to invite Commissioner Lori Stegman, who's our Multnomah County Commissioner, to the meeting. Welcome, Commissioner. And if I can find the right button, I will unmute you.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted.
Yes, welcome.
Very good. Thank you. Well, it is so great to be here tonight. For those of you who don't know me, I actually grew up in the Rockwood neighborhood, and I had older brothers and sisters that went to Centennial High School. So I'm very much an East County person, and I currently live in Gresham. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be here to speak to you all about the community safety that's so important to us all. And we know that individuals experience violence within families and within our communities in many ways. And much of that is shaped by socioeconomic barriers, along with current and historic systems of oppression. We see and experience violence differently depending on our race, our income, our level of education, along with many other variables that impact a person or a community's quality of life. Research has shown that over and over, that once someone experiences one type of violence, they are more likely to experience multiple forms of violence. This is particularly true for children and youth. And in my opinion, experiencing multiple forms of violence makes violence in our communities a very complex problem, which in turn calls for a complex set of solutions. Forms of violence are connected, but are often treated as singular incidents in our systems of care, which has contributed to many discussions around community safety and the rise of gun violence. As we have these conversations, it's imperative, especially with the recent rise in activity, that we develop a policy framework that prioritizes racial justice and trauma. This means aligning policies, practices, and relationships to get to the root cause of violence experienced by people in our communities. Findings from our violence intersections work here at Multnomah County has shown that many forms of violence are caused by similar risk factors and can be prevented by focusing on protective factors. But we need a sustainable approach to dedicate funding and programming to address violence when it occurs, as well as before it occurs. When Multnomah County focuses on investments that address and reduce violence by implementing sustainable violence prevention strategies, we can create significant and meaningful change. So for East County, that means reconvening a dedicated, multi-sector violence prevention coalition that includes community voices. It means working with our Multnomah County Sheriff's Office, our Health Department, our Department of Community Justice, as well as our local Public Safety Coordinating Council to launch a series of strategies that reflect the entire continuum of violence prevention. I believe that a crucial part of this is a cross-sector, multidisciplinary team that looks at how we interrupt and heal from acute moments of violence and how we use wraparound services to prevent it before it starts. It means developing and implementing ongoing violence prevention activities in our communities and securing funding for increased and enhanced social services and resources. We as jurisdictions have to work together to make this happen, which is why I'm glad to see that I think we have some other elected colleagues here tonight. I'm sorry that Representative Bynum couldn't join us, but hopefully she can come back another time. So we must continue to support our thriving communities by coming together to find ways to address the increased violence, to provide a safe and healthy place for all of our residents, no matter their affiliation or situation. I'm here tonight because I know how urgent and important this work is, and I'm really looking forward to hearing from all of you tonight in this session and then in the breakout discussion as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming in and sharing, Commissioner Stegman. We are now at the point where we have time for questions from the public before we go into 3 different breakout rooms at about 6:30. And Scott, have you seen any questions come in?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. So far, I see one comment from David Lynn. David's mentioning repairing trust in the Portland Police Bureau. I don't know, David, if you want to go ahead and address your question, and if there's anybody specifically who'd like to respond amongst the speakers, we can do that.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Yeah, my comment was that I haven't heard anything about repairing the community's trust in the Portland Police Bureau, which is horribly broken. And instead, we see them attacking our elected officials, which I've been doing community involvement for over 15 years. And this isn't anything new. They come into the neighborhood association meetings. They don't like to be there. They don't want to be there. And when anyone asks them a question about public safety, they blame city officials, they blame the mayor's office, they deflect, they get defensive. It's never a collaborative relationship. And so it's always really hard, even at the community level, to build any kind of trust. And then we see the whole summer of people being bull rushed with batons, people being pepper sprayed. My family, many members of my family was subject to violence at the hands of the police this summer. So when we continue to see that not addressed, it seems hard to talk about community safety and how we're going to move on and build on anything. So it's a shame that no one from the mayor's office seems to be here that I know of. If any of the commander or Anyone else would like to address that? I would love to hear it.
Thank you, David. I do know we have some folks from PPB here in attendance. If anybody would like to raise their hand, I just want to kind of level set too about the intentions for this meeting today. We understand there are a lot of issues across Portland that may cause tensions with the Portland Police Bureau. This meeting is specific to talking about neighborhood issues within East Portland and Centennial. I want to just share too that we were intentional in our approach to this meeting in that it's about community level solutions and dialogue. We've heard responses and seen things in writing from other neighborhood associations and forums that were held to focus specifically on law enforcement. We chose as a neighborhood association to address it from a more community level perspective and look at kind of the broad spectrum like Commissioner Stegman spoke about. So in terms of law enforcement, I just like to keep the focus specifically on what's happening here in East Portland Centennial neighborhood and some of the crime and gun safety concerns that we have. It looks like, so I was kind of asking if there was someone from Portland Police Bureau here that wanted to respond at all to David's comments.
Sure, this is Jamie Resch. I'll turn on my video here. I apologize, it doesn't always work great at home. So if I start to freeze up, I will turn it back off. So I'm the Assistant Chief of Investigations with the Bureau. And I'm here this evening just in case there were some questions that came up for us to answer. I will keep this very brief. As you've mentioned, you want to have this a different focus, but I'd be happy to discuss this with Mr. Lin at any time he feels is more convenient and at a different setting where maybe that's more appropriate. But obviously, community trust with the Portland Police Bureau is one of our #1 priorities, as well as crime prevention. So I've been to a lot of community meetings. I don't feel that I shy away from answering any of those questions. And I do feel like it's something that the Police Bureau has focused on, and we know that we will need to continue to focus on. There were a lot of events this summer that occurred, and it's something that we will continue to work on. If there's anything additional, I'd be happy to answer that, but I don't want to take up too much time in this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have, let's see, another question from Susan Q. Susan, do you want me? I'm going to unmute you so you can talk if that's preferable.
Sure. I'm just wondering, there just doesn't seem to be the consequences that there used to be when you got in trouble. Okay. So just on my block, which is in Centennial, there have been car thefts. There have been, there's squatters 2 houses over from me. And it just doesn't seem like there are consequences because the jails are full, or there's another reason, or, COVID or whatever. It just seems like, politics aside, there should be consequences for the actions of the people that do bad things. I mean, just quite frankly, we are foster parents. We've been fostering 3-year-old to 5-year-old children, and we're in our late 50s and early 60s, and we're trying to teach our children, our foster children, how to be good citizens. And when they walk by and they said, we should pick up this trash, I say, don't touch it. you know, don't touch it. I don't know. I'm just looking for, that's really the biggest thing. I come from a different part of the country. I come from the East Coast, but I've been out here for a very long time and over 30 years. And it's just the accountability for the crimes is really what I'm looking for in this neighborhood. Thank you.
Mhm. Yes, thank you. And you know, of course, you know, I probably don't have an answer to that. If anyone wants to raise their hand and speak to that, I absolutely invite you to. And I know that just part of this meeting is just kind of getting these things raised to the community level. You know, this meeting is recorded, people are watching. And so at the very least, hopefully we can, you know, hopefully this meeting helps to vocalize these issues.
Yeah, and I would just add to that too, Dan, with what Susan said. I think these are great perspectives for folks to share, and important perspectives in our breakout groups. So during the time that we have in the breakout groups, folks can definitely identify specific issues that they see, talked about litter, safety, accountability, if people are concerned about police response, and just keeping in mind some of the other things that we discussed. That, you know, Representative Bynum was here. I was hoping that she would talk about some of the state level policies that the Oregon legislature has passed in regards to gun safety, safe storage, preventing access to guns, and reducing gun-related domestic violence incidents. So I think it's important for the group to also consider what are some of the root causes here? How do we address some of the systemic issues with violence in other communities that are kind of more heavily or significantly impacted? And so those are some great points to share that folks can continue to do so in our breakout groups. And I saw a comment from Portland for Positive Impact. I think that's the gentleman, Randy, who wanted to speak up. If Dan, you can unmute him.
Yeah, I wanted to address the question about building the relationship back with the community and the Portland Police Bureau. As an organization, what we're working on is trying to come up with basically a strategy to present to the city council to look at how we can address how the police bureau acts with the community and how the community acts with the police bureau. We want to come up with a common ground approach, and we got some ideas that we want to present to the council, but we still have some more that we want to do. The biggest thing right now for that is humanizing our police officers. One thing we want to do is get them out of their cars more, and engaging with the community, learning names, learning, you know, what they do. Because there used to be a time with the police where police officer would walk down the street and everybody knew, you know, they'd know that their kids' names, they know their dog's name, they know their, you know, how their grandparents are doing. And we want to get that back in our community. So that's one thing, that's a priority that we're working on right now.
Thank you for sharing, Randy. That's great to hear that there's some collaborative effort going on to help lead to change. Okay. And Scott, I'm not seeing any other questions. If there are no other questions for people, it might be a good time for us to break into our different breakout rooms a little bit early so everyone has a little bit more time to share and discuss. So with that being said, I'll wait one moment to see if there's any questions that come in. And if not, oh,
actually,
yes, Scott?
I wanted to ask one question of Diane that kind of builds on the point that Randy made, and just considering kind of balancing resources and directing services to the appropriate kind of folks or community level responses. When we talk about neighborhood engagement, citizen engagement, and kind of a collaborative approach to folks being able to access city resources and have their voices be heard. Would you mind just kind of sharing about that from the community and civic life perspective, and maybe with the community safety program that was rebranded from crime prevention, as to how folks can also engage and not necessarily rely on law enforcement or expect that with limited kind of city resources for police response, how they can still access those kind of connections and get that support that they need.
Yeah, thank you so much, Scott. And I see my colleague, Meg Juarez, is on camera and can also speak to this question. She's the supervisor for community safety. You know, I would just say that overall, civic life has an approach. I mean, it is our charge, it is our mission to help people connect with government and connect through, you know, by just walking in the door as individuals, but also through community. I think one of the best ways that we actually serve the city of Portland is by helping people to organize into communities and to address their concerns collectively. It makes us more efficient, effective, and we can channel resources to entire communities much more easily than we can to specific individuals or households. So, you know, those resources are not just money. It's, you know, connections, social capital. It's, you know, experience and knowledge. It is like pulling from all the different things that we share together that make us strong to figure out these problems and do the problem solving. So I'm going to give Meg a moment to address your question as well.
Yeah, thank you, Diane. And thanks, Scott, for that question. Yes, and when you talk about the rebranding, when we went from crime prevention to community safety, it's really more than rebranding. We really did want to focus more on community building and less on watching our neighbors, right? Watching and reporting. We wanted to do more about community building and working with our neighbors, because that's really what's going to get us to safety. Going away also from punitive models of fear-based models like a neighborhood watch, we did evolve that program to Neighbors Together, because we understand that working with neighbors is far more important, because we know that in an emergency, our neighbors are the people that we're going to rely on, right? And so it's so important to know your neighbors and work together. And also we want to go more towards a care-based model of safety, where as Representative Stegman mentioned, it's about a lot of things that people feel safe with, whether it's jobs or housing or food security. Those things are the things that are going to make us safe. And yes, police have a role, and police are our partners. But police, you know, across the country, we've relied on police far too much to solve issues that really are not for police to solve, right? It's for us, it's for community to come together and work together and have those safety nets that are so important for people. And right now, when we're seeing this increase in violence, we're in a pandemic. A lot of people are suffering. A lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people are just we're struggling. And so yes, these are the consequences, right? These are the things that we are seeing. And to go back to punitive models and to continue to say, well, how can we punish these people? Well, let's think about how can we help each other? How can we help these people? How can we get to upstream solutions? And the way that we do that is really by investing in communities, investing in those safety nets. And that's what's going to get us to safety. So in our program, in community safety program, we do work throughout the city of Portland And we've been evolving, right? We're not there, right? We've got a lot of work to do, but we've been evolving. We used to be crime prevention, and we are community safety now. And you know why? Because language matters too, right? Language matters, and what we call ourselves is important. And so we're here to support communities. We're also working on community care responses, because we do get community requests after a neighborhood has gone through a gun violence incident. They contact us and say, what can we do? We're really afraid. And so what we do is we convene the neighbors, and oftentimes they say, gosh, I never really got to know my neighbor. But now that I know my neighbor, I kind of feel safer. And I feel like there's somebody I can call when there's something going on. And so I think that we do need to go back to resilience and finding those alternatives to calling police. Again, police have a role, but they are not the ones that are going to necessarily make us safe. And so I welcome any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Meg. Those are really great points. And I think it brings home why we're here today, why we have a Centennial Community Association. You know, this organization has been in Centennial for a number of years and was instrumental in the founding of the Rosewood Initiative. We have a space in our neighborhood that's welcoming and open to people of all backgrounds, that supports local business, people of diverse backgrounds to engage in their own leadership activities. And I think that neighborhood connectivity is so important. We can't rely on government to do those things for us, but the way that we can ask government to be accountable and to develop programs and structures that support the needs of us as a community that we identify as residents who live, work, and play here, we have to connect with each other. And if there is fear and uncertainty and hesitation associated with a number of things, the pandemic, the fear of crime or theft, we have to use these outlets as neighbors to come together. And that's what this neighborhood association is for. We get funding from the city, from the East Portland Community Office. You know, we're able to convene these meetings, and I just think it's important to make those connections. So I know Gail, who's on our board, also mentioned the importance of building trust with local police. I'll just say one other thing. You know, when I had incidents happening in my community, I was very persistent in reaching out and knew who I needed to go to ask for help. I relied on neighbors to be a part of that. And I also had to do a lot of work to try to find the right people within our government system. So I've had great experiences with the PPB neighborhood response team, but I know too there's a lot of frustration and there's a lot of fear. And so if we can come together as neighbors to support each other in linking to those folks, some of those neighborhood response team officers, that their job is to outreach to homes and neighbors and address significant concerns, and also make those linkages to the other government agencies or community resources that support that safety net. I think it's key. So I saw a hand up. I'm assuming that's Robert King with Mayor Ted Wheeler's office. If you wanted to say something, Robert, before we move to our breakout groups.
Yeah, just generally appreciate the meeting tonight and appreciate Chief Rush, responding to the question about trust building and regaining trust in community. I know that's a top priority for the chief and the police bureau and for the mayor. But having to do with the issue of gun violence, I just want to do a real quick update. Many of you maybe know that over the last 2.5 months, the community has brought really a lot of concern to a table. The local Public Safety Coordinating Council table has been convened. The chief, Lavelle, made a proposal to the mayor to provide for additional investigative resources and other efforts to, begin to really try to impact this increase in gun violence that's happened in the community. And I just wanted to update folks that conversation is continuing. City Council's very actively engaged and involved in that. There have been some resources that have already been devoted to that on the investigative side. There's a discussion about increasing the presence of officers on the street as a deterrent to people that are engaged in gun violence. And there's also been a robust discussion about community oversight and community engagement in that effort. City Council's taken a very active interest in all of that. And I think in a relatively short period of time, I suspect there'll be additional
Robert, I'm not hearing you anymore. I don't know if anyone else is lost. Okay. Okay. I'm assuming we've lost him. So now it is 6:30. It's time for us to go into breakout rooms. We're going to have about 15 minutes. I'm going to set up the rooms right now. You can feel free to join anyone at random. You'll see that we are going to list who the moderators are. The moderators will simply be taking notes to present back to the group at 6:45. And with that, I will open the rooms. Hopefully you are seeing a window pop up and you can choose whichever room you would like to. If not, in a minute here, I will go ahead and assign those who have not joined a room. To answer Rebecca's question, we don't have certain topics for discussion in each room. We are just asking that people bring whatever their concerns or thoughts are to the room they join. Sorry about that, Debbie. I'm going to assign you to Colette's room.